right. Thank you. Do you want to go ahead and raise your right hand? Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you are about to provide is true and accurate?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. And please state and spell your name and provide your address for the record.
Nelva Huitink, NelvaHuitink. Address is 3912 400th Street, Hospers, Iowa, 51238.
Thank you. And Huitink, am I saying it right?
Yes, Huitink.
Right. Thank you. Do we have the appropriate KMZ file up? Thank you. And as before, we'll drill down if we have specific questions about specific parcels, but we'll just give you our questions in the general sense. Can you describe the current use of your property and any plans you may have for a different use in the future?
Oh, that's good.
We have a 90-head dairy that you see on the south part of the track. Right now, where the pipeline is proposed, it's cropped. We have corn and alfalfa and oats rotation. My son, who is 23 years old, would like to get into the dairy, and our plan was to build north of the present acreage. He wants to do robotics, which means putting up a whole new facility. But with this pipeline going in, if it goes in, we pretty much cannot expand to the north or to the east.
Can you provide a general description of your property and any of the following on your property? And we'll just kind of work through the list as we did before. Buildings and other structures.
Okay, as you see, our acreage, if you want me to point out the building, we have a freestyle building, we have a dry cow shed.
I think there's a pointer up there too. Thank you.
Okay, oops, I'm gonna get right in your face, sorry. This is our present milking facility right now. It's a freestyle with our milking facility. Next up is our dry cow shed. Next north of that is our hoop building where we have hay storage. Off to the east, yes, that is our large heifer building. Next to that, we have a small heifer building. And then where the hand is right now, that is our commodity building. And then there's a machine shed off to the west, that white building.
And I apologize, just to follow up on a previous statement you made when you said it will limit expansion. I believe you said north and east.
Right, to the north and to the east of where we are now.
And are there plans now, concrete plans, building designs, contracts?
We were in the process, but when the information came out in 2021, with our experience with Dakota Access, we put everything on hold.
Okay, but no.
We have building plans, but nothing in concrete right now.
Thank you. All right. Drainage tile or underground installations, water lines, natural gas lines, telecommunication, electric lines, any of those types?
Yes, we have a northern natural gas line that runs through. We have Dakota Access. Rural Water has a line. Hospers Telephone Company has a line, but we're told they're no longer using that. And Sioux County has a right-of-way because we live on a blacktop road on the south.
Any streams or body of water or other noteworthy terrain features?
No.
Timber or forest?
Just our windbreak on the acreage.
Any easements held by a third party?
Oh, I think I just listed all those easements, so sorry about that.
No, it's fine. That's it. Sure. Go ahead, guys.
As you talk about those, could you just please show us approximately with your pointer where, like,
I think you mentioned Black Hills Energy, a water line, and did you say Dakota Access as well?
Yes, Dakota Access, sure. Dakota Access is gonna run just south of where the proposed, pipeline is now. Northern Natural Gas runs to the south of probably about right through here. Rural Water runs along the road, and the Hosker's telephone runs around here. And we do have 2 tile lines if you want me to point those out. We have a tile line that runs here and one that runs about through here.
Thank you. Any other feature or condition that may not be readily apparent and that might affect or be affected by the proposed project?
The majority of the soil where this pipeline is going to be going through is a 91 and a 92, which is a Primgar and Marcus soil, which is a wetter soil. And if you look at the engineering properties of that, when it talks about shallow excavation, it talks about it being very limited, that you shouldn't be doing shallow excavation on those soil types. So that's a concern. With the Dakota Access, we had a lot of settling, we had compaction issues, so that is a concern for us with this pipeline going in also.
Describe any specific concerns you may have and any recommendation you may have for the board to address those concerns.
When we were first approached with the pipeline, we asked our land agent, can it be moved? Can you go around our property? Never knew if it got sent further up, but never were told it could be moved. Our last time I talked to the land agent, maybe a couple months ago, I said, can it be moved? And he came back and said, absolutely not, we can't move it anymore. So that was our first request, that move it, go around us. We just do not want it on our land. Because this easement, it's gonna take about 7% of our land. We only own the 80 acres. So if this easement goes through, we now have lost 7% of our ability to control what happens on our land. Dakota Access took 7%, Northern Natural Gas, took another couple percent. We have lost all ability to make decisions on our land if this easement goes through. So that's another concern we have, that we don't have a right to determine what happens on our land because of this. And another issue we have is just the safety issue. The proposed pipeline could be within 300 to 400 feet of our property. And not only with a rupture happening, the other concern for safety is just farming the land after it's been put in. On July 25, we were chopping our hay, we went over Dakota Access line, there's a sinkhole there. So after 6 years, we now have to deal with a sinkhole. So my concern is, are we gonna have more of that? I know Summit Carbon at their informational meeting said to us, you'll never know that we have touched your land. Dakota Access said the same thing. 6 years later, now we have to deal with them coming in, trying to repair the sinkhole. They'll be tearing up our ground again. We don't have a definite plan of how they're going to repair this. So now we get to deal with this all over again. So another concern is just safety if there's a rupture, and safety for us farming the area again.
Do you recommend an alternate route for the proposed line, and if so, describe that route and its advantages or disadvantages?
Don't put it in. I mean, I can't change where they're gonna put it. I mean, they could go around my property, but then it's still within the vicinity of where I live.
questions from the parties? Mr. Long, OCA.
Thank you. I'm just going to ask a few quick questions so that somebody reading the transcript, I think, could hopefully find on their own map. The east-west road pictured there with some buildings on the north and then further to the east, some buildings on the south. What is that road called?
That is called B40, which is a blacktop road. I don't know if the 911 address is 400th Street.
I'm going to ask you the same questions I asked the previous landowner with livestock. Is one of your concerns that a release of gas from the line could harm your livestock?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're going to be within 300-400 feet if it would rupture. And the way I'm understanding, the gas can go 4,000 feet. We're gone.
And you, as you said, you have a dairy operation. So I think I probably know the answer, but I'll ask. If your livestock would harm, how big of a problem would that be for your business?
If they're all dead, our income is gone.
So would it be important to you, if the line were in place, that you could quickly get financial compensation if something happened?
Absolutely.
The buildings south of the road and to the east, is that also your property?
No, it is not.
So,
That is a neighbor.
so is your house in the cluster of buildings north of the road?
The house is right there.
Okay. I thank you. I don't have any further questions.
Thank you. I'm not sure what the order is, but I see Mr. Taylor and Ms. Greenhagen up, so Ms. Greenhagen, why don't you go ahead?
Hi, Mrs. Huitink, I'm over on this. My name is Chris Grunhagen, and I'm with the Iowa Farm Bureau, and so I just have some additional questions for you here. The drainage tile that you mentioned, there's two lines going a north and south orientation on your property?
Correct.
And so if Summit were to construct a pipeline, you would expect them to repair that?
Oh, absolutely. If I can tell the story, Dakota Access did not repair the tile line. The fall after it went in, our land was so wet, we had a hard time harvesting our crop. So yes, absolutely, I would expect them to have to repair the line.
And then if we have a dry period where you wouldn't notice that it was broken, would you still expect them to repair it even if you didn't discover it 5 years down the road?
Yes, I would expect them to pay for it.
Are these properties enrolled in any federal farm programs?
No.
Okay. Do you have crop insurance?
Yes.
Okay. And those are not in CRP, correct?
No CRP? Yes, no CRP.
Are they enrolled in CSP?
No.
Any other cost share programs that they may be enrolled in?
The only thing would be a yearly cost share because we do put cover crops out after we chop our silage.
Are there any water or soil conservation structures on your property?
No.
And I'm guessing from your testimony that there is no highly erodible land on the property?
No.
Are there any designated wetlands?
No.
Any farmed wetlands?
No.
If this permit is granted, would you want the opportunity, or would your family want the opportunity to negotiate an easement, a voluntary easement with the company?
That is something I would have to discuss with my husband and my son.
But would you like that opportunity?
Well,
make that decision?
yes, because I would like to know what to put in the easement. I mean, the easement we have now, there would be things I would be adding.
What kinds of things would you add?
Well, definitely, it will be something about if there is a sinkhole, how are you gonna repair it? And if there is a rupture, how fast do we get compensated? Would be two of the issues I would want to have addressed.
Anything else?
Not that I can think of right off now, top of my head.
Would you want to be able to have access to that easement when they're not in active construction?
Definitely, because if you look where that pipeline goes, it cuts our land in half. If it happens to be when we are harvesting, we need to be able to cross it to get to the back of the field.
Would you want the easement to identify the exact pipeline route that goes across your property?
Yes,
If there is a crop yield reduction in the area of the easement that is persistent or continues after 3 or 5 years, would you want to continue to be compensated for that crop yield?
yes.
Do you know what size pipe Summit is putting in or is proposing to put into your property?
Yes, I found that out just the end of May. It's gonna be a 24-inch pipeline. And one of my concerns is a 24-inch pipeline, what that's going to do to the underground drainage of our field also.
What do you mean by underground drainage?
Put in a 24-inch pipe, it now becomes, if there's gotta be water movement, where's the water gonna go? When it hits that 24-inch pipe?
So you're talking about groundwater movement?
Yes.
Would you want Summit to have the ability to replace that with a larger pipe at some point in the future?
No.
And would you like Summit to consult with you prior to changing the grade of the land?
Yes.
That's all the questions I have, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Taylor?
What county are you in?
I'm in Sioux County.
Okay. And the shaded area on the map, the sort of red shaded area, how many parcels is that?
It's 2 parcels.
And you've got your dairy operation south and a little to the west of the pipeline. Is the shaded area in cropland then?
Yes.
What crops do you raise there?
We raise corn and oats and alfalfa as our rotation.
Okay. Do you have any concerns that if the pipeline is installed there, that you'd have some crop damage?
Yes, right now with Dakota Access, we still see our corn is shorter right through where that easement area is. And like I said, that's been 6 years ago.
So when was the Dakota Access Pipeline put in?
2017, 16, 17.
Time flies.
Mm-hmm.
Did you oppose the Dakota Access Pipeline?
I will tell you, we were probably one of the last ones to sign in Sioux County, and the reason was we did not know the process. It came through so quickly, we didn't know that we could say no, so.
On the map, to the east of the pipeline, there are some buildings. You say that's a neighbor's?
Yes, that is a neighbor.
Do you know if they've signed an easement or not?
The neighbor to the south and to the west of us have signed their easements.
Do you know if that was really voluntary or not?
You know, I'm assuming so because they were signed really early.
describe to me what occurred with this sinkhole you were talking about?
We were chopping alfalfa, July 25. It was our last load. It was actually me driving the tractor. And we hit this sinkhole, or I did, with the tractor and wagon. It about took me out of my seat. Luckily, the wagon wasn't so full, so we didn't break an axle on the tractor. I took pictures of it. I did have somebody upload them. It's about an 18-inch sinkhole at the time. I haven't looked at it since. It's about 3 foot long. Dakota Access came and they put an orange fence around it, so we have to cut hay again, so we're gonna have to farm around this little orange fence in the middle of our field too.
Oh, shit.
So after you found the sinkhole, what, a couple of months ago?
July 25 is when it happened. We didn't have it prior. I mean, that was our third cutting of hay.
And so after you found the sinkhole, did you say Dakota Access came out?
I had to call them, yes, they came out.
And all they did was just put some tape around the perimeter?
Yes, because our request was we wanted to get our fourth cutting of hay, because at the time they told us the possible way they could fix this sinkhole is they would have to dig out 20 foot around it, put in some porous concrete, and then refill the hole.
Holy shit.
Was there drain tile in that sinkhole?
No.
I think you mentioned that there were some problems with the wet soil and excavation with Dakota Access, and because of the soil type, Summit would probably have the same problems. Is that a fair statement?
That would be my assumption. With the difficulties we had with Dakota Access, I would assume same soil types, the same issues are going to occur.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Whipple, the counties?
Yes, Ms. Huitink, my name is Tim Whipple. I represent 7 counties. I want to follow up on something you said and something that Mr. Taylor was just questioning you a little bit about. But if you would, just describe, please, a little bit more detail what happened with Dakota Access. So if you're afraid of the same thing happening, I'd like to gain a better understanding of what happened the first time.
You mean with Dakota Access?
Correct.
When they came in and installed their pipe, we had had a large rainstorm. They had already cut the tile line. That is the eastern one. So everything draining from the neighbor was going into the easement area. So they ended up, they could not complete the trenching or filling the trench until it had dried out. Also, they said they wanted to pump the water out. We were told it would not get pumped onto our land, but my husband had to go out there twice because they were pumping it out of the trench onto our cropland to the north. So what was supposed to take, just a few weeks ended up taking all summer. So it was just very frustrating for us because we would be told one thing and it wouldn't happen.
So was there a lot of construction during wet conditions?
Some of it was, yes.
Did you ask Dakota Access not to do construction activities?
We couldn't do that because we no longer had control over what happened on that land. Once you sign the easement, I can't make any decisions.
Was there a county inspector there?
I would assume so. I don't know the people that were there at the time when it was getting built.
So you were not part of any conversations between the pipeline company and the inspector and yourself about whether it was appropriate to be constructing during those conditions?
No.
Having gone through that experience, what conditions would you like to see this time in terms of wet conditions and stopping inspections and whether you should be consulted? What conditions would help you the next time?
If this would go through,
Yes.
first of all, like I said, we don't even want it on our property because of these issues. And you can say you can foresee anything, but you can't. Because once you dig a hole in the ground, the soil's gonna react differently. So I could say we wanna do this, this, and this, but we don't know what the future holds. So to say, would we like to be consulted? Yes. But every time with Dakota Access, we would have to talk to a different person. We were never given a consistent person that we could talk to. And with Summit right now, we've had 4 different land agents that have tried to contact us. We've tried to bring our concerns. We always have to start over from square one.
I think that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jorde?
Ma'am, how many hours would you say you've put into learning about educating yourself and trying to get up to speed on all the negative effects this would have on you?
I would say a couple hours a week. And this has been since, 2021 when it first came out.
And of course, you've got I'll use the word benefit, but you've got the history with Dakota Access and at least being ahead of the game somewhat in terms of the problems and the failed promises that can occur. Is that right?
Correct.
Now, in terms of the Dakota Access and the tile lines, was the tile lines those were problems separate and distinct from the sinkhole issues, correct?
Yes, the tile line happened a year after Dakota Access was put in. The sinkhole just happened this summer.
And are you aware that Summit, if approved, would use the same tile contractor that Dakota Access did, this Ellingson outfit?
No, I wasn't aware of it, but if it goes through, I would probably strongly recommend they find someone else.
Right. And again, the last time around, the promises will use the best contractor, everything's going to be great. You heard all those things, correct?
Correct.
And it sounds kind of like deja vu this time around?
Yes, it does.
And I suppose you don't hold or put much stock or faith in that, do you?
No, I do not.
On the map we're looking at here, I noticed what looks like water towers just to the right off the page there. What town or what community is that nearby?
Those are real water towers. Our closest town is Orange City, which is 6 miles away. Hospers is to the east, which is 7 miles away. But these are just water towers for the rural water system from Hospers.
All right. And do you have volunteer firefighter EMS program in that area, or if there was an emergency at your place, who would respond? Do you know?
It would be either Orange City Fire Department or Hospers.
And do you have any idea how long it might take them to assemble and then get to your property?
I would say 15 to 20 minutes.
Have you been provided any plume modeling or dispersion analysis or any risk analysis whatsoever to make you sleep better at night should this project be approved, knowing you're 300 feet or less from the hazardous pipeline?
No, we have not been given any of that.
And similar questions we talked about before, is it your understanding that although there's a white line depicted of the alleged route, that could move anywhere on your property at Summit's sole discretion? Do you know that?
I was under the impression the maps we were given that was the set place that the pipeline would go.
Have you had a chance to look at your easement and the easement rights Summit wants, which include relocating, changing the route on your property?
I guess I overlooked that. I've read through the easements, but I did not realize that they would be able to just change the route.
And if your neighbors to the south sign, do you have any idea why they wouldn't just stay down there to the south if this got pushed through?
No, I have, no.
Do you have any idea who Summit Carbon Solutions LLC is, or what, if any, assets they have?
No, I do not.
Are you aware of the access easement terms which would allow them access anywhere on your property at any time of the day?
I thought once you signed the easement, they were only allowed to enter on the easement acres.
Would you be surprised to learn that they seek the right of unimpeded ingress and egress in and to the easement areas, so that in order to get to the easement areas, they can go anywhere they want?
I was not aware of that.
Does that concern you?
Very much so.
You were asked some questions about, would it be nice to consult with Summit, and you said yes. Do you have any idea the value of that consultation, or as between you and Summit, who has the final say if you disagree during that consultation?
That has always been our issue with having different land agents. We don't know who they talk to. We don't know if what we've asked has been reported correctly to them. We have never been given the opportunity to say, hey, can we get somebody down here to talk to you about this?
And as between you and Summit, if you were given this right to consult, or where they were forced to send someone to hear you out, do you have any idea if the easement terms give them the final say, or you the final say in regards to their easement rights?
I don't know.
Would you be surprised to learn that they have the final say?
Probably not that they would have the final say.
What are your thoughts about a perpetual forever easement when these are based on 12 years of 45Q tax credits?
I wish I could sign just a 25-year easement, but that's not the way they're written. But I would prefer to have something that would only be 20 to 25 years.
Has anyone explained to you why they seek a perpetual to the end of time easement across your property for a finite project?
I have never been explained that, but I can probably imagine why.
In terms of liability issues, do you have any concerns about the inability for you to protect yourself and your family in your dairy operation in case of a unintended leak or spill event?
Yes.
And what are those concerns?
Well, concerns are, who's going to reimburse us if it's not our fault. The other concern is we probably won't be around to even request reimbursement.
Thank you, ma'am. Nothing further.
Thank you. Mr. Dublinsky, and then Mr. Whipple, do you have a follow-up? Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Go ahead, Mr. Dublinsky.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Huitink, I just want to try and clarify for the record, you were talking with several of the other parties in the board about the Northern Natural Gas and the Dakota Access Pipeline on your property, and you helpfully used the pointer, which works well for us in the room, but unfortunately doesn't work as well in the transcript. So I'm going to take a shot at trying to describe what you were pointing at.
Okay.
We'll see how I do. Is it fair to say that the Northern Natural and the Dakota Access and the proposed Summit Pipeline are all roughly parallel?
Yes.
And of those three, the proposed Summit Pipeline is the furthest away, correct?
Correct.
The closest is the Northern Natural line,
Yes.
and the Dakota Access is between those two.
Yes.
Do you know when that northern natural line went in?
the 1960s.
1960s. I don't have anything further. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ryan?
Thank you. Good afternoon. I just have a couple of very brief questions for you. Mr. Jorde was asking you a lot of questions about the easements that Summit's offered, and it sounded like a lot of your responses were that you didn't know about the various terms. Is that fair?
I guess when I read it, I didn't realize all those things were included in it.
Would it be helpful to you to hear other people question Summit about the easement terms before you have to answer questions about it?
It would be helpful. It would have been helpful, yes.
Would it be helpful for you to have to answer other questions, hear Summit answer other questions about the pipeline before discussing the issue, the impacts on your land?
Yes.
That's all my questions.
Thank you. Are there any final questions? Mr. Jorde?
In your dairy operation or on your home there, do you use natural gas?
No.
Okay. And do you use rural water?
Yes.
All right. Did people in your community, as far as you know, use natural gas?
I can't say.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Nothing further.
Thank you. Questions? Wait, Ms. Grunhagen.
I have one follow-up question, then I have a procedural question for the board. Did you file any objections or comments in the docket?
Yes, I did.
I was able to locate 2. Would you have done more than that?
Yes, I did 3.
Okay. Do you know approximately the time frame?
One was right after the initial informational meeting. I think one was done last winter and one was probably done in the last month or so.
Thank you. Before we excuse the witness, I have a procedural question regarding hearing exhibits.
Okay.
With the aerial maps that are being placed on the screen, is the board planning on taking judicial notice of the features of that versus should we provide it as a hearing exhibit so that it gets into the record?
The KMZ files that we're displaying have already been admitted to the record.
The structures and the aerial photographs that the KMZ is placed on is not in the record. The Google Earth map, the Google Maps are not in the record.
Yeah, we can take judicial notice of it unless there's objection.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Yes, we will take judicial notice of it unless there's an objection, and I don't see any objections. Those most likely to object are nodding, so that seems to be approved.
Okay, thank you. Then I will not introduce the hearing exhibit. Thank you.
Okay.
Along those lines, this witness said that she had uploaded something, and I just wanted to be clear, did you upload?
I uploaded pictures of the sinkhole.
When did you do that?
Right. I didn't know that we were supposed to upload any information, but it did it right before dinner.
Today?
Yeah.
Okay, and so then for purposes of the record, if she uploaded those to the docket today, do those automatically become part of her testimony, or do we need to specify that?
Would you like to offer them as a hearing exhibit?
Yes.
There you go. These will be labeled, Nelva Huitink, hearing exhibits 1 through 6.
Oopsies.
Yeah, we will need to go through and number them.
Okay.
So we'll probably need you to help us walk through how you would like them numbered. You can't hear me, can you? We'll need your help, going through and identifying how to number them. So why don't you go ahead and begin and describe the pages that you would like and in what order.
Okay, the first one is probably the soils map that shows where the soils are and the description of the shallow excavation, how it shows very limited for the 91 and 92 soil.
Does that look correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
And then I don't know how you have the pictures next.
We're gonna put them in the order you want us to.
Okay. I don't know if you can see this picture. I would put that as 1. Because that shows the sinkhole, and then the next one will be out a little bit further. And then the third one is a picture of my son with his foot in the hole to kind of show the depth of it. So, yes, that one would be 1. And that's 2. And then 3 is the picture with his foot in the hole. Yes. And then the next picture would be the one with the red fence. That's where that sinkhole is located in our field, and that is what we have to farm around when we put hay down in the next day or so. And I think there's one more picture. Not sure you could see that as well. But that is a picture of the Dakota Access looking to the east. I took that last fall. There has been settling of almost 2 feet over this pipeline. So I was trying to get that, but pictures sometimes don't get what you want. But it just kind of shows how there's a low spot through that whole Dakota Access.
So that is in,
Did you get this picture?
we do not have that picture.
You don't have that picture? Okay. Then maybe it didn't get uploaded.
Okay, and then, the shallow, sorry, the shallow excavations, the spreadsheet, is
Yes,
that 5?
that would be right after the map.
Okay, so the map is then 5,
Yes,
and the shallow excavation spreadsheets would be 6.
yes.
We don't have the picture of the Dakota Access damage emailed to us, so we can't admit that as evidence, but your testimony. I know, hold on. It's gonna be a long day. So we don't have the picture of the Dakota Access damage.
Okay.
But we certainly have your testimony, so we'll be able to admit the picture that's omitted. We do have it captured in testimony.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there one more thing I can add about the excavation? Did I talk about, I asked if they could bore the pipeline in versus an open trench, and I was told absolutely not, it was too far. to bore the pipeline through our property.
And I'm sorry, when you say you asked them, are you
I
referring to
asked our
Dakota or Summit?
land agent for Summit Carbon,
Thank you.
after I looked at the soils type, if the pipeline could be bore in instead of open trenched. And I was told absolutely not.
Right, thank you. Ms. Gruenhagen, and then I think Jordy's got a question. Ms. Gruenhagen doesn't have a question. Mr. Jorde?
Yes, thank you. You mentioned 91 and 92 on what's page 5, the soil maps.
Yes.
And then you attach, or where exhibit 6 is the shallow excavations. Can you just, what does that mean to you? What's the significance of you wanting to share that?
Well, a shallow excavation, according, this came from the Web Soil Survey, is something 4 to 5 foot in depth. So that means when it says very limited, it means you shouldn't be doing that, is how I interpret the engineering property on that.
And the picture of the sinkhole, was that within the 50-foot Dakota access easement or outside of it, or where was that?
I was told it's directly above the pipeline itself.
All right. And what's the heaviest type of machinery you drive across where that sinkhole is?
It would be a chopper or the tractor and wagon.
Do you have any estimate on the total weight, max weight?
No, I do not.
Do you know the largest diameter of wheels plus tire of the largest piece of equipment you would drive across that?
The largest tire would be on the chopper. No, I'm not even gonna guess, but it's a large wheel.
Is it taller or shorter than you are?
It's probably taller.
How tall are you?
I'm about 5'6".
And then last question, the picture that you didn't get uploaded, you're saying that you've personally observed 2 feet of settling above where the Dakota's access pipeline soil level was post-construction, or what was that?
Yes, it has settled at least 2 feet in certain areas of where the easement was, and I think right above the pipeline, according to when they flagged the line to look at where the sinkhole was.
All right, so based on your personal experience and observations, the depth of cover has reduced by 2 feet of what it used to be above the Dakota access pipeline, correct?
Yes.
All right, does that cause you concerns about another hazardous pipeline potentially coming in with you driving equipment with diameter of up to 6 feet in length of tires?
Yes.
All right, thank you, nothing further.
Okay, thank you. Do any of the parties have any other questions? Okay. We will move to board questions. Board Member Martz?
Ms. Huitink, clarification on future buildings. So you mentioned plans for future dairy buildings, I believe, north of your current dairy operation. Would that be north of the current northern natural gas and Dakota access lines?
Yes, but now if Summit Carbon comes in, we pretty much cannot do anything north of our place. There just won't be enough room.
And would there be anything on the southern portion of your property east of the current pipelines?
No, no, because if we go east of where the proposed pipeline is, we will be too close to the neighbors because we would have to put in an animal waste system, and there are footages that you have to be away from neighbors to be able to do that, and we would be too close.
Understood, thank you.
Board Member Burns?
Yeah, could we pull up that map again of the property, please? So with your pointer, if you could just, I understand what Board Member Martz was getting at. I'm a visual person. I was just wondering if you can use the pointer and show me what you were thinking in terms of a potential building down the road, or what you were potentially planning.
Being we cannot do anything here because it's under easement, we had planned to hopefully build in this area. But with the easement, there won't be enough room to the north of this to do what we want to do.
Okay, that helps. And then, and I'm going to stick with this theme, I guess, because I'm just curious on the negotiation side. It sounds to me like there was kind of some negotiations with Summit. I guess in my mind, as I think about this and how this process works, is that an individual comes to your home, you sit down at the table, you have a conversation, and you talk this out, and they present to you the paperwork, you look at it. Is that what occurred? What kind of conversations happened that would be part of that negotiation process?
In the beginning, most of them were phone calls until we got an official easement, and they would just drop it off at our house because as dairy farmers, we are busy till 8 o'clock at night. I mean, we're up at 5 o'clock, we're going till 7, 8 o'clock at night. So to find a time for all of us to sit down is not easy. So they would just present us the paperwork, we'd maybe have a 5-minute conversation, and then we'd have to get going again.
So they would physically come out though?
Yes.
And give you the paperwork, okay.
Yes.
And I guess, I don't know, I'm just kind of curious again, a visual person, so when Mr. Jorde asked you about the size of the equipment, are we talking big red tractors, big green tractors?
Red. Sorry, I was raised green, but we have red. I know.
I'm a big red person too,
Okay.
so thank you. So the chopper itself, are we talking like a New Holland chopper? Are we talking a John Deere?
New Holland.
Okay. That gives me a better idea mentally of what we're talking for farm equipment.
Okay, bro.
In terms of tractors, you happen to know the number on the tractor.
The one I was driving was a 7120.
That also helps. I know exactly what you're talking about. All right. I believe
You believe it or not?
those are all the questions that I would have for you, so thank you.
Okay. Now, staff informed me that we have to properly admit the evidence. So, would you like to admit your exhibits as labeled?
Yes.
Thank you. Do we have an objection from any of the parties?
Um,
Seeing no objections,
oh, wow.
the
Whoa.
6 exhibits provided by Nelva Huitink will be admitted as Nelva Huitink hearing exhibits 1 through 6. Thank you.
Your Honor, I have a question.
Oh, sorry.
So,
Go ahead.
the missing photograph that she didn't get uploaded, would that also be considered admitted if she uploaded it, or how are you handling that?
At this time, no, we haven't seen it. The parties haven't had a chance to review it. But I believe the description was quite vivid. So,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Huitink, thank you. You are excused.